Okay, so this is the Midiwino. Why is it called the Midiwino? Because the device that powers everything is a microcontroller called an Arduino. And the interface which connects to the DJ software is an interface, an old music interface that's called MIDI. So I combined the two. MIDI and Arduino became Midiwino. What is it? It's basically a DJ controller, and all of the components on here will control the software, which you can see up there. Here is our software, and I'm going to go through all the different parts which control the software. To start off with, well, first of all, I'll tell how it communicates. So the Arduino itself, through a USB cable connected to your computer or laptop, will only send serial signals to and from the computer. Now, I can make the device send MIDI, but then once I do that, I won't be able to edit the code. So that's like a finalization, which I will do. But right now, because it sends serial signals, I have two applications. First one here is called Hairless MIDI, and as you can see, it receives the serial signals and converts them to MIDI, and it does it on the way out as well. It can send out signals, for instance the LED strips here and the LEDs coming from the software, and then this won't connect to the software straight away because the software needs to be connected to a MIDI device. So then I bring in this piece of program, which is a virtual MIDI device. So as you can see in here, we have a virtual MIDI device in and a virtual MIDI device out. And then this program will send everything from the Arduino to and from these virtual devices. Then let's just take these away now. In the settings here, when we go to Controller Manager, with this I can set this to all ports, so it can listen to in and out, but it's listening to everything that's MIDI, which is easier. Now here is where I can tell the device what to do when it receives a certain MIDI note. So for instance here, that's fader there, these are the mid lows, this is the gain adjustment here, and the gain adjustment is this, which is like the master volume. Actually, let me get out of the way. That's the master volume here. So I tell the software that when a certain button is pressed, it receives this note from here. Then I want it to control the gain on there, and that's for everything as well. So every single feature that I want to be controlled from the controller, I can enter it into here and say, when this is pressed, then do this. And also you have inputs and outputs, so outputs as well. For instance, this one says here, when a loop is activated, then you send out this note, and then in my code that I've wrote for this, it will say light up this LED when that happens. Let's show you this working. So let's get rid of the settings right now. Let's close that down. So let's start off with what these things do. This here is called an encoder. An encoder is a constantly spinning wheel. It just sends a signal on, or on, off every time you turn it. And you can turn it in either way, all the way. So I've got this set to the browser. So this will browse through my songs. And then if I click down on it, because it also has a button built in, and then turn it, then it will turn the tree on the left hand side, as you can see here. So I can go through my folders of songs or a playlist of songs, and then I can also hold down this button here. This button here is a shift key. This will give an alternative to every single button and dial. I can make it do a second function whilst holding down this shift key. It's like a shift key on a normal keyboard or a function key. If I hold this down now, instead of going through the tree on the side, it will go through my favourites at the top. You can see above, hover across it here, this area here. This is where I put my favourite bookmarks. So I can go straight to this folder there, and then we can move up and down, and then we have a song already loaded into the left deck. So on the mixer here, this is all the left deck's controls. This is the volume LEDs for the left deck. This is the slider which moves the sound from the left to the right deck. Volume for the left deck. I'll show you what these buttons means when I come to them. But right now, because we need to select a different song, I will go to my favourites right here, and I can select a song, and then when I click this button here, it loads it into the right deck, and that will load it into the left deck. I want to load it into the right deck. There you go, the song has loaded. So here's the start button. We can start, and we can stop, and we can start, and then we can stop. Then we can make a cue. That adds a cue point and plays straight away. And this will press it again, it will go back to where that old cue point was. Now if I want to go back to the start of the song and stop it, I can hold down the shift key and press the start button, and that will take me back to the start. And it also makes a new cue point as well. So here's the volume fader. And here's the crossfader between the two decks. Here we have the bass. We turn the bass off, turn the bass up. Middles, the trebles, and then we have the gain, which is master volume, so we can push it higher. You can see we're peaking into the red light now because it's super high. If I turn this all the way down, I can bring it down. So this is sort of like a trim, an extra volume on top of the maximum volume, if you will. If my song is a very low recording, I can turn up the gain to make it a little bit more volume, so the same volume as the previous song playing. Here we have a filter, which I can turn on by pressing this button here, and then the light comes on telling me that the filter is working, and that's the light here. So it's not just me pressing things here that make these lights happen, it's actually the software telling a signal that this is activated. Because if I was to do the same thing on the software itself, as you can see, the lights come on and off. Here we have the play light. So here with the filter, I can turn that on or off via the software or via here. So they're in sync. Because if the lights only come on here from me pressing this button, it might be off on the software but on here. I've not made it work like that. This is indicating everything that's happening in the software. Here's our filter. So the filter is, these are small special effects. And I can hold down the shift button and change the special effect to something else. Now as you see, this special effects has gone green. That's a different effect now. Like an echo out. An echo effect. And we can go through a few more effects. Got some small effects here. This is a reverb. Another like hall sounding echo effect. Reverb. And there's a few more on here. We have this one, like a gator. Cuts the sound out, in and out to make some nice effects. So that's the filter. And this will do the same for the second deck for everything we do here. It's the same on the right deck as well. So here we have another encoder, and then this encoder, if I press this button in here, that's activated another shift key, and that shift key will make this button then be able to change the tempo. Now on the software and other decks, the tempo is controlled here by a fader, and as you can see here, this is the tempo, 121.96 beats per minute. I can speed that up now by doing this. As you can see, originally it's small increments. If I click it in and do large increments, so we can put it up to about 126 BPM, and then fine tune it by not clicking it in. Now, if I hold down the shift button here, I can then go through a selection of loops, and the loop section is here. And a loop is, for instance, if you want a certain part of the song to loop through, or for instance, if you're running out of time to mix in the next record, you could add a loop to extend the song. So here is selecting the loop, and because this isn't clicked, this has a different function now. If I click this in, it will add, goddamn phone, it will add a loop in. Ready? Now you see that the time plate here, time code, waveform has gone green, looped. It means the loop is active, and this is a 16-bit loop. So I can now change that loop to an 8-bit loop, and then a 4-beat loop, 2, 1, half, quarters, eighths, and then we turn it off. So this has multi-functions. This is changing the tempo in two different lengths, like a fast and a fine tune. It will be doing a loop for the record, selecting the loop and activating the loop. And when nothing's touched, this acts as what's called a pitch bend, which I'll show you when we have two songs in the mix. A pitch bend is basically the same as holding a record vinyl and slowing it down or speeding it up. So it's changing the tempo without changing the master tempo. It's just temporarily changing the tempo, so you can put the two songs into sync. Quickly turn my phone silent. Okay. So we can put in a loop quickly now because we're running out of time. Let's quickly put an 8-beat loop in, and then we'll show you a quick mix, how we mix in the next song. So this is just looping. So now with the next song, I myself can click on this button here, and this button here will enable me to listen to the other song, but the listeners, the audience, cannot hear this song, and that's called queuing. So I queue up a song, so I can press play on the next track here, and I can hear it, but no one else can. And now I can adjust the tempo, so the tempo is the same as the current song playing, so that when we play the songs together, as you can see here, I've now matched the BPMs. Normally we'd do this by ear, but nowadays the kids have it easy. So now the tempo is mixed correctly, I can then start the track, and then I can catch it up so the beats are in mix. I'm hearing this, you're not, but then I can bring it in and I'll show you them both playing. This is in time now. So now I bring up the volume and I turn off the sound so I can hear both songs now, and you can hear both songs. This is the other song playing. And as you can see by the wavelengths, this is a low recording. This is a high recording because of the higher waveform. So I can turn the gain up for it to catch up a bit, so you can hear it a bit better now. So this is two songs playing at the same time now. That one's gone. That one's gone. Or we can crossfade. Now I can show you what the pitch bend will do. Two songs playing at the same time. If you pay attention to here, this is the phase meter. That's if the songs are in sync together. If I put it out of phase, you hear the beats are sounding bad. It's out. That's called a bad mix. Very bad mix. We put it back. Catch it up so the beats are now in sync. So that's the last function for this, which is the initial function, which is to put the beats in or out of sync. That's out of sync. Sounds like a train wreck. That's what we call it, a train wreck. Now it's in the mix. And this will stay in the mix forever because these songs are digital and there's no real world interference, so it will constantly stay at the same tempo. And because we've locked in the tempos here. What all the young DJs like to do now, that the ones that never really did the old analog DJing, is they like to click a sync button here and then they never have to change the BPM. It will just automatically sync the tunes together. But that's it. I think I've covered everything that this small mixer can do. And that's basically what it is. It's like a mixer, but it's a controller. Also here I failed to mention that you can see this is the tempo of the song. Even though you can't hear this, this is giving me an indication if the levels are okay before the audience hears the song. I can turn that off now and we can stop this song. As you can see, the volume levels will go down and up, which is basically sending out signals from this VU meter here. And it's sending the signals out through this application. As you can see here, the signal is coming out from here back into the Arduino, and it's saying send this MIDI note at this value, and the values will replicate the light on the VU meter, value being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. So if it's full volume, it will say send value 6 to that note. And then I don't want to go deep into the coding, but basically that's how everything works. And this is the Midiwino.